Right, good afternoon and welcome to this meeting of Monmouthshire County Council on this Thursday, 22nd of January 2026, taking place in County Hall, Usk. Particular welcome to Councillor Murphy, who I see online. I'm sure I speak for the whole council in wishing you a speedy and complete recovery after your recent accident. Also good to see Councillor Powell looking in good health there, sitting up in the mountains by a look of her. Yeah. And also to welcome Councillor Stevens back to the chamber after a while of ill health. So, let's move on then to declarations of interest, please. I don't see anybody. I've got a new sort of screen in front of me and it says seat 4. I don't know if that's I didn't know what that means, but I think that's nobody. Also, my apologies. I've got to do apologies. Right. Let's not be apologies. Do we have any apologies? We'd have one.
Afternoon, Chair. Happy New Year. Councillor Newell is caught up in a road traffic incident near Usk, which has delayed him. He'll be here as soon as he can, but obviously we send our thoughts to everyone caught up in that incident.
Absolutely, and we hope everybody's okay there. Thank you, Councillor John. Right, I didn't see any declaration. Councillor Howarth.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and good afternoon and Happy New Year to everyone. Councillor Taylor, she's held up, and if she jumps on screen, Chair, she will be, all right? I'm sure she said she'd get on as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Everybody else okay? Right, so, we didn't have any declarations of interest, did we? No? No, good. Right, Chair's announcements that you can see they're already online. Okay, so minutes of the meeting of the 4th of December 2025, that seems a long time ago. Councillor John.
I didn't have a point to raise on the minutes, but it was on your Chair's announcements.
Well, please do.
Well, Chair, we sometimes use this point in the meeting to send our good wishes to Welsh party leaders for various reasons. And I note that any day now we're expecting Reform UK to announce a successor to Nathan Gill, the disgraced former leader of Reform UK in Wales, who used to represent Monmouthshire in the European Parliament.
Dreadful.
It was during that time that he accepted tens of thousands of pounds in illegal bribes from the Russians and now spending 10.5 years in prison. But I think it would be appropriate for us to note the impending appointment of Nathan Gill's successor. And while I'd stop short of wishing Nathan Gill's successor well, perhaps it would be appropriate for us as a chamber to send our congratulations to Nathan Gill's successor. And I think I'd probably speak for all members in this chamber that we would wish to send Nathan Gill's successor our hopes that they won't engage in the criminality and bribery and general treachery that their immediate predecessor did as leader of Reform UK in Wales.
I don't quite know how to respond. I'll do that. I will allow councillors to keep their own counsel on that. Maybe. Thank you, Councillor John. I hope the whole meeting's not going to be like this. Right. So where do we get to? We got to the minutes of December the 4th. Right. Is it your wish that we approve those minutes? Yeah. Okay. All agreed by acclamation? Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Right. We move on then to item 5, which is reports, and the first report is the diary of meetings for 2026-27. And Councillor Sandals, I believe you're going to speak to this.
Diolch, Cadeirydd. Council diary. The Council, as you know, is required to agree its schedule of meetings for the year to ensure the relevant governance arrangements are in place for the Council to carry out its functions. A timetable of all Council meetings from May 2026 is attached to this report for approval. As ever, where possible, meetings have not been set in school holidays, as members have requested. The diary also covers the pre-election period for the 2027 local elections. Meetings have been scheduled as normal to allow the Council to continue to carry out its normal business, but forward plans will need to be reviewed closer to the time to ensure the agenda items are appropriate for discussion during that sensitive period. This report will not look to review the timing of council meetings, simply that the scheduled dates of meetings for committees is fit for purpose and will ensure good governance arrangements. The timing of council meetings has already been reviewed by this council and its Democratic Services Committee. There will, however, still be opportunity for committees to make alterations to these arrangements in consultation with the committee chairs and its members to suit the needs of the committee and its work programme should it need to do so. Diolch, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor, are any questions or comments on that report, please? Councillor John.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I'm not going to get into a lengthy debate on this item, but there are a couple of short points I would like to make. It's disappointing to see that all the scheduled full council meetings for the autumn of 2026 are bumped back a week or two so that the Cabinet could go on one last jolly for Labour councillors across Wales to the WLGA conference. I don't see why Cabinet members can't join online in the way that other colleagues do when they have other conflicts. I've attended the WLGA conference in the past. I really don't see why members can't join online. It does feel like this is going to be one last knees up for all those Labour councillors who run authorities across Wales. We know that the public want Labour out, they want Starmer out, they want the Welsh Labour government out, and we've got Cabinet members here openly telling the public that they're not going to be here in 15 months' time. On the second point, and I'm fed up of having to raise this every single year, but I note again, we see a minority administration proposing a first vote on its budget plans just days before the legal deadline. Even though you've got a Green Party councillor and an independent councillor in your ruling groups, it feels incredibly reckless to propose your budget of nearly £250 million for the first time at such a late stage with so little time for amendments. This year, you've added in a meeting at short notice for the 6th of March, potentially disenfranchising some residents, but perhaps that was the intention. I just think it's grossly unfair to mess around with a diary that is agreed 15 months in advance. We know that we want to make this council more diverse. We want younger people to be able to take a full part in our proceedings, people with caring responsibilities, work commitments, but it makes it very difficult for people to commit to that when you're changing meetings, adding meetings in willy-nilly. The meeting that you've added in for the 6th of March this year could have been added in 12 months ago. So it's a real shame to see you making the same mistake again. And if you've got one Labour member that misses the bus, you're going to need that extra meeting on the Friday next year. So it's a shame not to see that extra meeting added in. But as I say, we're not going to die in a ditch over this. So happy to go to a vote.
Thank you, Councillor. Are you suggesting we put that extra meeting into the diary at this stage?
I think meetings should be agreed 12 months in advance and they should be sacred. We set the diary so that members can put those meetings in their diaries, plan ahead, fit their other commitments around those sacred full council meetings, and I don't like seeing the diary messed around willy-nilly at the last minute. I don't think it's fair.
Yeah. Can I take that as a yes?
Yes.
Thank you. Oh, okay, so there's a recommendation there that, Councillor, unless there's anybody else who wants to comment, if I bring back Councillor Sanders. Yep. Councillor Brock.
Three things. One is, personally, I'm more than happy that we have that extra date in on the Friday. It's important. I don't think it potentially disenfranchise our residents. Secondly, I absolutely object to the idea that councillors, it's not just cabinet members, who attend WLGA, you have attended on more than one occasion, consider it a jolly. I go there to represent Monmouthshire, I go there to learn good practice from other councils. I go there to ensure that we are part of a local government family and that we can vote on recommendations made and we can shape the way local government is understood in Wales. You may see it as a jolly. We made sure that you had an opportunity to come along and be part of that discussion. I certainly did not. And I would be very concerned that we saw any attempt to participate in conferences to do with shaping Welsh policy from a local government point of view as a jolly. Coming on from that, this diary is set in consultation with Democratic Services and is not something which any cabinet member or myself willy-nilly drops dates in so it coincides with jollies or holidays. That is not the way to see it. I am disappointed with that suggestion from you. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you. Any more contributions? No? Okay, right, I'll ask Councillor Sandals to respond. And he refer to that issue of putting in the, what would be March the 7th, I believe, meeting for next year, whatever date it is, the backup meeting.
Diolch, Gadeirydd, again. I think the leader has...
Sorry, I'm saying we don't have a seconder for Richard's request. I wasn't really treating it as a formal motion, as a recommendation. Do we have a seconder? We do have a seconder. Okay, thank you. Right, and do we need to vote on it at this stage? Do we?
Invite Councillor Sandals to respond.
All right, we'll invite Councillor Sandals to respond, and then we'll take that.
Diolch, Gadeirydd. I think the leader has possibly roundly rejected some of the statements in that came from Councillor John then. You will know that the alternative dates were considered throughout November and October, but the final schedule balances member availability, officer capacity and good governance. The November meeting has been moved to the 12th of November and December kept at the 10th of December to reduce long gaps while still keeping the overall diary working. And also, this was meant to, that your second point about the diary meetings, this report is simply about this year's report, not about last year's, which was agreed. And yeah, so I'll move back to the chair now with Councillor John's motion. Thank you.
Okay, can I take it you're accepting the proposal to put in that extra date?
Yes.
Yes, okay, just for clarity, right. So, I think we still need to vote on that, won't we? Yeah, okay, yeah.
And if you know what the date is.
Yeah. Anybody got that date? Right, all right. Is there any dissent from that? No, so we don't. Oh, Councillor Howarth.
Yeah, may I just ask, I have no issues with the new date, but we're agreeing a diary then for next year as well, up to the end of March. Surely we should include that extra date then for next year, which will be March the 9th, is it?
Yes, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about an extra. Sorry, we're talking about an extra meeting for March of 2027. If you look at the agenda,
not March 26th, not for this meeting coming as well.
No, not for the one that might be
you,
needed. Right. So, is there any dissent? No dissent. So we'll accept that as carried. Then, thank you very much. Right, we'll move on to the next item under section 5, which is the council tax reduction scheme for 26-27. Councillor Callard.
Thank you, Chair. This report is presented to Council to seek approval for the Council Tax Reduction Scheme for the 2026-2027 financial year as required by legislation. The scheme provides vital financial support to residents on low incomes by reducing the amount of council tax that they are required to pay and is a key element of the Council's wider approach to supporting vulnerable households. The Council is required to formally adopt the scheme on an annual basis in accordance with regulations set by the Welsh Government. For 2026-2027, the proposed scheme largely continues existing arrangements, ensuring continuity and stability for claimants, while incorporating mandatory annual uprating and a small number of regulatory amendments introduced by the Welsh Government to ensure the scheme remains fair, up-to-date and legally compliant. Failure to adopt a local scheme by the statutory deadline would result in the default scheme being imposed. This report therefore sets out the legislative context, outlines the proposed amendments, confirms a continuation of previously agreed discretionary elements, and asks Council to approve the scheme for implementation from the 1st of April 2026.
Thank you, Councillor. Comments or questions on that item, please? No? Right. Well, again, we can... Oh, was that a hand? It was that a hand to speak or a hand to vote? A hand to speak. Right.
Yeah.
Councillor Pavia.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to briefly address the council tax reduction scheme item today in light of the unanimous motion we passed just last month on support for residents living with a terminal illness. Since then, the leader and the cabinet member have followed through with the ask in that motion and the ask of the administration, which was to write to Welsh Government. And the letter and the government's response, I think, was shared with all councillors on the 13th of this month. And in turn, I've had permission to share both those letters with Marie Curie. For those who haven't seen the Welsh Government's reply, the key points in the letter were they recognise the pressures being faced by people with a terminal illness, but they will not introduce a statutory entitlement at this time, citing a fixed CTRS budget and the estimated 28.8 million Wales-wide cost. They also note that councils in Wales already have local discretion under Section 13A to provide reductions in exceptional circumstances, effectively pointing us to the route, and other local authorities to the route available. Now, they also emphasise that the CTRS remains more generous in Wales than in England, and that any future changes would require significant new funding. Now, whilst this is, of course, is disappointing, it's not wholly unsurprising. It does underline something, though, which I think is important, that there are flexibilities available to us, even if they are limited, and we need to understand clearly what using them would actually cost Monmouthshire. So, to the Cabinet Member, my ask today is modest, and I think it's entirely aligned with our existing responsibilities, that officers undertake preliminary work over the coming months to establish definitively what the cost would be if we were to use Section 13A flexibilities in a structured way for terminal illness, and to do so ahead of next year's council tax reduction scheme cycle. Now, this isn't about committing us to a scheme now or even in the future, but I think it will allow us to have a solid financial model so that working with Marie Curie, Welsh Local Government Association, the Society of Welsh Treasurers, we can help shape a methodology that other authorities could use to calculate what they might be able to use in terms of a discretionary scheme. And crucially, as a new Welsh Government will be in place within months, it puts us in a position to return with a clearer, better evidence asked at the right moment. So, Chair, I think this is a simple but important ask. It's keeping the work moving. I think it's responsible and proportionate, and it shows this council still has compassion for those living with a terminal illness, and I hope the Cabinet Member will see that in that light. Thank you, Chair.
Right, thank you, Councillor. I'm taking that as not being a formal amendment, but a suggestion to officers, and I've no doubt Councillor Callard will want to reply to that. Any other comments or questions? No? Councillor Callard, to come back.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Pavia. I think the debate that we had late last year was very helpful. Certainly, during that debate, we identified some challenges with introducing a scheme, specifically around definitions. But I'd be really happy to work with you and other councillors, you know, to try and find, potentially try and find some definitions to try and explore what costs might be and how this policy could be taken forward. And if it is in existence, in authorities potentially in England, then I'm sure there may be some information that we can use in order to support that.
Thank you very much. Just on the agenda, two points to that. Can I see if there's any dissent on either of the points on the recommendations? No dissent, so I declare those carried then, please. Thank you very much. So we move on swimmingly now to item 6.1, which is a motion in the name of Councillor Pavia.
Thank you, Chair. I want to begin by...
Sorry, Councillor, I need to ask for a seconder. I believe we've got one lined up. Councillor Edwards. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. I want to begin by clearly stating the spirit in which I brought this motion. It's not about grandstanding or apportioning blame, and it's not about ignoring the very real constraints that government policy, both Welsh Government and UK Government policy, funding rules and cross-border complexity place on us as a local authority. But I think it's about honesty, about trying to generate further momentum, and it's about credibility, particularly with residents of Chepstow and with the many thousands of people who pass through Chepstow every day, because as we know, Chepstow is not just a destination town, it's also critically a gateway town and a key point of access to the M48, M4 and M5. Sorry. There we go. Now, I just want to go through the propositions within this motion. The Council notes that traffic congestion in and around Chepstow continues to have a significant impact on residents, on businesses and on the strategic road network. And I think colleagues in this chamber will see that as irrefutable. This is not a marginal issue. It's not now an issue of occasional inconvenience or a midweek or a week issue. It's a 7-day-a-week issue, and it's not confined to peak hours alone. Congestion is affecting residents going to work, to school, to medical appointments, local businesses trying to remain viable, the air quality in the town centre, and particularly in the air quality management zone in my ward, and also the resilience of key cross-border transport corridor. As I said, Chepstow is not just a destination that people want to travel to, and I know thousands of people come to visit Chepstow every year. It's somewhere people must travel through. Those coming from the south of Gloucestershire, Forest of Dean, and I think that distinction matters. I think it's also important that we ground this debate not just in policy strategy, but also lived experience. And Monday this week was a particularly dire, horrendous day for traffic in Chepstow. And on local community forums, and I think including social media posts that many members in this place will have seen, residents don't talk in technical language. As I said, I looked at social media on Monday, hundreds of comments, and just to pick a few. Will someone just fix this damn traffic issue? Was one. Another describes solid traffic into Chepstow every morning, no matter what time you try to travel. And I think people have tried to traverse Chepstow not earlier points of the day now. People are leaving, at 6 o'clock in the morning just to get through Chepstow and get that clear on their travel journey. And I think another long-standing resident summed up the feeling, and I think many will recognise, and they said 12 years on, still nothing has changed except more housing and more cars on one road. And now I think that's not opposition politics, it's just frustration born out of repetition. And it just isn't residents of Chepstow, but it's about those passing through Chepstow, as I said, using the links to the M48, M4 and M5. Now, Chepstow's geography means that local traffic, commuter traffic, freight and strategic traffic all converge in one place, and that's why I think the congestion in Chepstow feels very different, and why it feels constant, and that's why incremental measures alone will struggle to make a visible difference. I think this reality has become recognised before. This is not a new issue, and I think that brings me to the work this council has already commissioned. For those not here prior to May 2022, in March 2021, we commissioned, along with our strategic partners, Arup, to undertake the WellTag Stage 2 Chepstow Transport Study report, and that was published in March 2021. Now, that study was comprehensive, it was evidence-based, and importantly, it was honest. Now, it did not present a single solution. Instead, it recommended 3 interlinked packages of intervention. Package 1, which was the active travel and demand management. Package 2, which was public transport and town centre interventions, including developing a transport hub for the town, and package 3 was the strategic highway interventions, looking at a bypass or relief road. And those who have read that report will know there were 2 options in that package 3, which was a high-speed relief road and a low-speed relief road. Now, the clear message was this: Chepstow's congestion problem is multi-layered, and addresses only one part, and addressing only one part of it would just leave the underlying issue unresolved. Now, since that report, we have made progress as a council on packages 1 and 2, and I commend the council for doing that. And I think that's thanks to financial support from Welsh Government in terms of the active travel, which has been welcome, and to the previous UK Government through the Levelling Up Fund for the Transport Hub for Chepstow. Now, active travel schemes and transport hubs are important. They align with national policies, and of course they deserve recognition. But we also need to be honest, and I say this carefully, because package 3, in my view, is effectively stalled. Now, that matters because residents stuck in traffic don't experience congestion in packages. They experience it as sitting still, or sometimes, as some describe it, as a glacial pace passing through the town. Now, in March 2022, Monmouthshire County Council and Gloucestershire County Council agreed to jointly fund progress and move the bypass to the next phase of the WellTag scheme. Councillor John was leader of the council at the time, and I think we also debated a motion which was passed, which reinforced the council's commitment to developing this proposal. Now, that agreement acknowledged 2 important truths: that this is a cross-border issue and that partnership was essential. Yet since then, progress towards a full business case has slowed considerably. Tackling other notorious pinch points like the High Beach roundabout has been drawn out. And I think the Cabinet member has expressed frustration in this chamber on a number of occasions in relation to the WellTag work for that project, which remains incomplete. I think we're getting messages that it is going to be complete at the end of this financial year, but we haven't got clarity on that. That Burns Commission's recommendations made in 2020, and I'm specifically thinking about relevant recommendations to Chepstow, like developing new access points to the M48 near Caldecott and to Seven Tunnel Junction, have not been meaningfully progressed, and certainly not in the mind of the public. Now, early in 2024, Gloucestershire County Council indicated a willingness to commit £500,000 towards furthering scheme development, and I believe that was a serious offer. But without match funding from this council, and I know the Cabinet member will certainly mention during his reply to the debate attempts to use some of the Levelling Up funding as Monmouthshire's contribution. However, that has not materialised. So without that contribution, momentum once again has fallen away. And from the outside, I think for perception of residents, it looks uncomfortably like another pause rather than a plan. Now, I want to be clear, I recognise the wider context on this side of the border. The Welsh Government Roads Review, the shift in national road building policy, and the fact that any relief road would largely sit in England and would have to be led and predominantly funded by the UK Government. Those are real constraints, and I think we have to acknowledge that. However, while policy frameworks and policy competence are debated by ourselves and national governments, residents are still asking the same questions, sometimes in frustration, sometimes in disbelief. Why does nothing seem to move? That is why, for me, acknowledging constraints cannot be a reason to let matters drift indefinitely, and it cannot mean passive acceptance of stalemate. Monmouthshire still has a role to play, politically, strategically, and as a partner at the table. So this motion does not demand immediate construction. It does not deny climate responsibilities or funding realities. What it asks for is clarity, transparency and direction, specifically a clear statement of status of the previous commitments, a realistic assessment of funding options for the next TAG or WellTag stage and future stages, which could include a construction phase, a timetable of engagement with Gloucestershire, Welsh Government and UK Government partners, and I've just seen a MCC press release, but I won't steal the Cabinet member's thunder on that, and confirmation that this full council will debate and influence the way forward rather than seeing this issue quietly deferred again or drift into the longer grass. Colleagues, this is not radical, this is good governance. So, Chair, Chepstow residents don't expect miracles. But when people are saying
30 seconds, please.
fix the dam issue, I think what they're really saying is, please, please don't let this drift for another decade. Not when there is significant housing development being planned on both sides of the border. So this motion is about ensuring that it doesn't. And I commend this motion to council. Thanks, Chair.
All right, thank you. Councillor Edwards, do you wish to speak now, or do